Welcome to Musical Musings. I'm Jack.
I'm Callum.
And I'm Jamie.
This week we have a very special episode for you guys. We're going to be talking about an entire album. After our three usual episodes of the first 3 weeks of the month,
I'm sorry.
There's a little teaser for you guys at home. This is our sixth time trying to record this intro. We told Jack not to say
I'm
and
really
it has
trying.
Compounded the issue.
I'm really trying.
Yeah, it's amplified it. It has made the situation a lot worse.
Yeah. So we're just gonna be real relaxed with this episode because we don't.
This is our special episode. The fourth week of every month we're gonna do an album. We don't expect you guys to listen to the entire album. If you would like to, we'd appreciate it. Or if you've already listened to it, that's great. But if not, I think you can still enjoy us talking about it, even without listening to it. But yeah, so this week is my pick. Well, actually, we did it randomly.
We randomized. Yeah, we've each put forward 5 albums that we then hit a random wheel. Oh, at the end of the podcast, we should do it again. We should actually do it while we're here.
Oh, to pick the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, I like
next
that.
month we're doing this one.
Right. Yeah, and next month won't be an album of my choosing since we're doing mine right now. Yeah, this week we're going to be reacting to or talking about the Genesis album, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which was released in 1974. It's the last Genesis album to feature lead singer Peter Gabriel, pretty much the kind of the face of the group up until he left. Obviously, afterwards, Phil Collins, who was the drummer of the group up until that point, did some background vocals. I think he had a few songs where he sang lead on, but mostly just excellent drummer and did some backup vocals. He took the reins after Peter left the group, but this is probably my favorite Genesis album. It is very long.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
this introduction.
Well,
I got something to say. Now that we've let the viewers in on, how many times we've had to restart this intro, Callum, you can't edit out the ums. I'm sitting here and I'm so much more aware of it now.
I'm trying to, but it's so ingrained in me that
I'll do my best. There are points. There was a point in the last episode we did, and again, this is gonna make terrible fucking listening. But we had a moment where Jackie was saying something, and then you just stopped talking, and then there was 3 seconds of silence, and you went.
Did you say Jackie?
Jack, you.
Oh, I thought you said Jackie.
Jackie.
I was like, Cal, we're not that close.
You were talking, and then you stopped in the middle of a sentence for about 4 seconds, and then you just went.
We all have
Anyway.
things, though.
Yeah.
I say way too much, and I'm trying to be more conscious of it, but it's hard when you're on the spot.
It is.
I say a lot too. Or sort of. I say that a lot.
You say all. That's your way of transitioning sentences.
Yeah.
All this podcast is going to be is picking apart each other's linguistics.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, to cap off this intro, because I don't want to make it too long, but I did want to kind of contextualize the album a little bit. So this is a concept album, double album, quite long.
An hour and a half.
Yeah. But I do think that you guys will enjoy it. I think that it's progressive rock, but I don't think it's inaccessible. It's a little bit daunting because of the length and the story is kind of pretty out there. But
if you do get a chance at home to listen before you listen to this, or kind of as we go through, awesome. We don't expect you to. And we're going to try to talk about the album as if you haven't heard it before, because it's an hour and a half, and we're not asking you to do that.
Jack, do you want to... Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Do you want to just explain what a concept album is, though?
Yeah, sure.
Because we talked about that a little bit before, and in case listeners don't know.
Yeah, so a concept album is essentially just an album where each song is connected by a theme or concept that runs throughout the entire record. Some examples that I would give would be Dark Side of the Moon would be a concept album because that's sort of, maybe that's not the best example because it's kind of a looser theme, but I think it's kind of the themes of life and the things that make people go insane or, like time, money.
If you're more familiar with the kind of stuff that I listen to, then the Killers do a lot of stuff like this, where the album, like the songs are individual songs, but by the end of the album, you've kind of received a story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's essentially what. Another example would be like Animals by Pink Floyd. Maybe that's a better example because it's a much more. You can really see the theme, like in terms of everything is allegorical and it's using animals as a way to explain different types of people in society. So that's what a concept album is. I would also describe this album as a rock opera in terms of the fact that it also tells a somewhat coherent story. Kind of it's pretty out there, but it does sort of have a beginning, middle, and end. So, that's it can be kind of I maybe I'll just stop.
This is
going on for way too long.
It's giving me flashbacks of the Lost episode.
Yeah. I know. Well, I don't know.
15 minutes of Jack Dawson.
I don't know how much to try and
It's fair. It's our first special episode.
Yeah.
But I think we're at a good point where we can jump right in.
Okay. Okay.
This week's album is "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway" by Genesis.
Yes.
And we'll go give it a listen and be right back.
Okay, so we just listened to side 1 of "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway." I'm very familiar with it, so I want to know what you guys' thoughts were, your initial first reactions.
Okay, well, first I think we should clarify that is the first 6 tracks, right?
Right, yes.
Okay. That is
from the
For
title
anyone
track
listening
to...
on vinyl.
Grand Parade of Lifeless Packaging.
Yes. First 6 songs.
Yeah. What do you think, Jamie?
I thought there was a lot of variety in the music itself. I mean, I wasn't quite as focused on the lyrics because it's a lot to take in on the first listen. I was telling Callum briefly when you went upstairs that the beginning, the piano sounded like very unsettling, and I wasn't a fan. Like it sounded cool, like it added to the song, but I almost imagined not a silent horror film, obviously, because that audio would be there, but a horror film with no dialogue and just that piano sound.
Mm-hmm.
It was creepy. I don't know. But yeah, I think that there was unsettling vibes. There was mystical type vibes, ominous type stuff. And the last track was almost adventurous type music.
Very whimsical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost very, Callum was talking about how it kind of reminded him of a musical.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
And,
Yeah, I could see it being done on a stage.
Right.
And even to the point where those in-between solo parts, which... There's this thing, just to pick at, specific music stuff that I do and don't like. When you're doing a solo, just be like, look at how good this guy is on this instrument. I hate that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when somebody just rips it on a guitar, but it's incoherent. It's yeah, you're hitting that really fast, and that's really hard to do. This isn't good music though.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's what was going on here?
Yeah, there were points where it was it would cut to the piano, and it's you're going insane, and this is really impressive, but this doesn't sound good to me.
See, that's interesting because to me, Tony Banks is one of the less performative keyboardists. In prog rock. I mean, if you listen to people like Keith Emerson from ELP or Rick Wakeman from Yes, I think you could make that accusation. But yeah. I feel I don't know, because I'm assuming you're talking about In the Cage.
Honestly, even at the beginning, the very, very beginning of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, when it's just kind of going bananas on the keyboard, like Jamie was saying, it's frantic. Yeah. That also felt okay, you're good at this. What are the other instruments? What is the vocals? I like when a solo can replace vocals. When you can hear it like a guitar solo or a drum solo, and it's in place of vocal. There's still a song happening around it. This just felt the vocals aren't happening, and this guy is just going fucking batshit on his instrument, and then we're going to come back to the vocals later. It doesn't add much.
I can see what you're saying, but to me, I think maybe partially because I wasn't focused on the lyrics, I felt it almost, I could tell that I couldn't tell you what the narrative was for each song or how they related to each other, but based on just the music, you could tell that there was a narrative, and I think that what you're talking about added to that aspect.
Yeah, and when I say it feels like a musical, it's listening to those as individual songs, those parts don't make any sense in my brain of like, this isn't good. When I look at it as the idea of this is happening while things on stage are moving, it makes complete sense. Like, they're singing, and then all of a sudden, guy goes crazy in the piano, and like everything on the stage moves around, people change positions, and like get ready for the next
totally
stop.
visualize that. Like, moving sets around, and like it's a bit chaos.
Yeah. The thing that stood out, I don't even stood out, like one of the things I was thinking about the most when I was listening to this is that there's no song on this I would want to listen to on its own. Like,
not even In the Cage?
No, that song is good for 4 minutes, and then it goes on for 4 minutes.
Well, you don't like the keyboard parts.
Yeah, it just like it overstays its welcome. Like, it is really good, and then it just keeps going, and it doesn't change enough for me to warrant it being 8 minutes long. It's like listening to Through the Fire and the Flames. Like, I love that song, but Jesus Christ, it goes on for so long.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite song on the side?
Honestly, probably the last one.
It's
really?
Yeah, the Grand Parade of Lifeless Packaging feels the least like I'm watching something on the stage.
That's my least favorite song on this side.
It's the song that is the most like an actual individual song. But this album definitely, if this is what you mean by like concept album of it kind of has a theme. I think if you aren't listening to the album in its entirety, you're kind of missing out on this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like,
I mean, it would like...
Even In the Cage, I don't see why you would listen to that song without listening to every song that preceded it and then the song that came after it.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I would say, because I'm thinking of, after they finished touring this album, there was a couple songs that they would include, still include in the set list. And I feel like those are the songs that kind of stand alone, like by themselves.
Yeah,
and
I imagine.
But even a song like In the Cage, like the lyrics don't make any sense outside of the context of the album.
Yeah.
But I think that and I think the title track too works on its own. Obviously the first like 3, even 4 tracks kind of like seek into one another.
It feels like even In the Cage, the last track felt like its own kind of independent thing, but the rest of that side all felt like one really, really long song.
Yeah.
I even said, because Jack was kind of, while we were listening, letting Callum and I know when the tracks were changing because we weren't fully aware. And at one point you were like, okay, we're going on to track 5. I was like, what? I thought we were on track 4. Like, I'm taking notes for each song, but they got so pushed together that, it definitely all flows together.
Do you guys want me to, like, tell you kind of about the...
Maybe at the end of all of it, we can talk about, like, the grand story behind it and all of that, because we're going to get into this for, like, 20 minutes.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like that just makes it a little bit more difficult on you guys, but...
Yeah, maybe.
Because, like, if you're just listening to the whole album just, like, with no idea what's going on, I don't know.
Yeah, but at the same time, will our listeners have listened... Like, the listeners who do listen to this album, did they also read the book that goes along with it, basically?
Well, I'm not going to read that. I just want to read, like, a synopsis.
Okay, yeah, if you can keep it short enough, then go for it.
So this is from Wikipedia. So I'll keep this as short as possible. One morning in New York City, Rail... I don't know if you guys picked up on Rail. That's the name of the main character.
I thought they were talking about, like, train tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rael. Rail is holding a can of spray paint, hating everyone around him. He witnesses a lamb lying down on Broadway, which has a profound effect on him. I can't speak today. So that's referencing the title track. As he walks along the street, he sees a dark cloud take the shape of a movie screen and slowly move towards him, finally absorbing him, flying a windshield. Seeing an explosion of images of the current day, Broadway melody of 1974, before he wakes up in a cave and falls asleep once again, cocoon. Rail wakes up and finds himself trapped in a cage of... I don't even know how to pronounce this.
Can I see it? Cage of stalactites and stalagmites?
Yeah. Do you know what that is?
How do you know how to pronounce that? Just like off the cuff.
You guys don't know the words stalactites and stalagmites?
No, I do not.
It's those, it's like the rock icicles that come in, like, up and down in the bottom of caves.
Oh, okay.
I believe a stalagmite is the one coming out of the ground. A stalactite comes from the ceiling, but I'm not sure.
Learn something new every day, I guess.
You guys I think it's in, like, Pajama Sam. You guys never play that?
No.
What is that?
It's like an old point-and-click adventure game, and I think, like, in the first game...
Pajama
Sam, dude. I think it's like, specifically, it's like Pajama Sam, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark is the first game. And you have to, like, do some shit with stalactites and stalagmites.
Wow. Well, I've learned something new today. So Rail wakes up and finds himself trapped in a cage of stalactites.
This is what we learned.
Stalagmites.
This is what we learned that Pajama Sam is a loose prequel to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is actually the third Pajama Sam after Pajama Sam 2, Thunder and Lightning Are So Frightening.
So which slowly close in towards him. As he tries to escape, he sees many other people in many other cages before spotting his brother John outside. I don't know if you picked up on hearing Brother John. He was also mentioned in the last track.
He's mentioned in the Bible too.
Yeah. Rail calls to him, but John walks away and the cage suddenly disappears. And that's obviously talking about in the cage. Rail now finds himself on the floor of a factory and is given a tour of the area by a woman where he watches people being processed like packages. He spots old members of his New York City gang and also John with the number 9 stamped on his forehead. Fearing for his life, Rail escapes into a corridor. The Grand Parade of Lifeless Packaging. And so that's side one.
Sounds like
a bad dream.
Yeah, like
it does actually.
Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, like you're just in another place and then
it.
you're somewhere else and you just accept the Looney Tunes logic that got you there. It's like, I'm in this cave now after I fell through the movie screen. And now I'm in a
It's like you're not thinking rationally, but like you're experiencing it all and it makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will say, the reoccur, like Brother John is reoccurring throughout the story and serves kind of a purpose near the end. So I would keep out for mentions of him.
Keep an ear out if you listen to the next 3 sides of this album. God save our souls. Overall, like, I mean, you really like this album, obviously.
Yeah.
I do like it. Individually, there's a lot of gripes I can find coming at this from the kind of music that I like, that is very focused on like individual songs with individual meanings. This isn't very good.
Right.
Like it's the music sounds kind of similar, and like the solos just don't mean anything to me, and like the meaning is kind of gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it from the idea of this being a musical and a whole performance with moving parts and progressing story, this is really interesting that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could ever listen to any of these songs on their own,
right,
but I can listen to this as an album.
Right. What did you guys? The last thing I wanted to touch on. What did you guys think of the musicianship, like the instrumental part of it?
It's the same thing with like, it's they are talented. I don't like how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of thing like just think of a song that most people listening probably know, like Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the drums are so simplistic in that song, but they need it to be. Like
right.
The impact of that slow, repetitive drum beat
right.
is what that song needs, and like amplifies the feeling the song provides.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 minutes of just like drum solo, piano solo, guitar solo, bass solo doesn't add very much to the music, like the musical side. But again, it doesn't add much to the side of the songs as individuals,
mm-hmm.
but makes sense in my mind as a musical theater.
Yeah, I think now having the context of the story, I think if we were to listen, not that I'm suggesting we listen again.
We are not going to.
Let me get that straight. But if we were to listen again with that context, I think that it might change the way that I listen to it. I think maybe the instrumental is supposed to complement it, invoke emotion, almost have you visualize the story in between how it's being told.
Yeah, like the instruments aren't there to make a good song in this song, which is like, well, so strange to me from where I come from musically.
I don't know, because to me, like, I mean, I think they're all amazing musicians, and I feel like, like you said about the White Stripes, how like the simplicity is, it needs to be simplistic for like the vibe of the song, and I feel like for this, it's almost the opposite. It's like, to me, the freneticism of the instruments really like provide a good, soundscape for the meaning of the song and for the lyrics.
It could if there was like visuals attached. Like if I could see him running through the factory or like walking down the street and things like that, then yes, I can see it. But because it's just sound, it just sounds like filler.
What sounds like filler? Like
the solos. It feels like they have a live performance and they're just trying to amp up the crowd by being like, now this guy can go.
Yeah.
If this
I
was
think
this was an actual musical and we got to see what was happening, I could see see the moving parts.
I also feel like it would look really cool instead of a live musical as sort of like an animation type thing.
Yeah, like a music video that goes along with it.
Yeah, I think that could be really cool. Almost like I'm envisioning Fantasia and how Fantasia is just all music, but there's like that storyline.
Right.
And the music complements it. Like, I wouldn't listen to the soundtrack of Fantasia without the movie, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But when you combine the two, it's
makes
just
it's
a different experience.
Yeah. Mm. And that's definitely what this feels like so far as an experience.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, like, I guess just to me, because I'm so familiar with this, like subgenre of music that, like, it doesn't sound weird to me. But
yeah. It's new to me.
But yeah, because I love, like, I love the solos. I love... to me, it doesn't feel performative. It feels like it feels like it needs to be there. It feels like it's part of the song. Yeah. But I guess you completely disagree. But
it's just fine. It's just two different points of view from two different like musical backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
Like
also two different, experiences with the album itself. Like how many times have you probably listened to this album versus our first time listening to it without that context beforehand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we're going to listen to side 2 of the first album, and we'll be back to you in a couple seconds. 20 minutes in our time.
All right, so we just finished side 2 of Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. That ends the first album. So this side consists of...
Back in New York City, Hairless Heart, to throw on the Canadian accent. Counting Out Time, The Carpet Crawlers, and Chamber of 32 Doors, which sounds like a lost Harry Potter book.
I was thinking the same.
Yeah.
Chamber of Secrets and the Chamber of 32 Doors.
Very fantastical.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think? What did it compared to, like, the first side?
I think I kind of came to terms with the fact that this is all basically just a musical. And that's, not even like that's a bad thing, but, like, I'm trying to go into it thinking less of comparing it to music that I like and more of thinking it as a performance. Mm-hmm. And I think if I had thought to that from the beginning, I would have enjoyed side 1 more. Side 2 felt a little bit like the same thing for too long for me. Mm-hmm. I did like Hairless Heart.
The instrumental?
Yeah, that was probably my favorite track so far. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I liked the vibe, and I liked the way
it is a great
instruments
theme.
worked.
I love the kind of Steve Hackett on guitar. I think he was kind of influenced a lot by Robert Fripp from King Crimson, just in the way that he uses the kind of that tone.
Yeah.
He also, this is a total side note, but Robert Fripp would sit on a stool when he played guitar, and Steve Hackett did the same thing, just essentially trying
copying him,
be like Robert Fripp. And they both played Gibson Les Pauls, but anyways, I'm going on a tangent, trying to stop myself. But Hairless Heart is a great instrumental. If I had to pick a favorite song on this side, I'd probably go with Chamber of 32 Doors. I love how like dramatic it is. And I also think that the lyrics, even though they are very like esoteric, I feel like I can still kind of relate to them. Like there's a relatability to the kind of, I need someone to believe in, someone to trust, and all the kind of the during the verses, the chorus where he kind of, I'd rather trust a countryman than a town man, or I'd rather trust a man that works with his hands. I think you can really, if you really dig into those lyrics, you can find a lot of like pretty interesting messages from all of them.
Like kind of a song about changing times, so almost like a song about growing, maybe
a song about just finding what you like, finding your values, finding your morals.
Yeah.
And I think, not to get too grandiose about the topic of the album, but like I think that essentially like this journey that Rael is going on like into is basically just trying to find like meaning, trying to find a purpose, trying to figure out stuff. And I think it's interesting that Peter picked like a character that is like, a gang member, a young teenager in New York City, an immigrant from Puerto Rico. Well, I guess Puerto Rico is in America, but technically, whatever. Like,
make a state.
You know, and somebody that I don't think, you know, is certainly not like intellectual or like, you know, has thought about any like philosophical shit, but like that, him going on that journey, I think is really interesting. And just, you know, obviously it's done in such a weird, you know, fantasy way, but anyways, I'll stop talking now, and we can go on to.
It's just every once in a while, because we have the computer that we're looking at right beside a recording. It's like Jack will start talking, and you'll get to it like a point. I'm like,
5 minutes has gone by.
how long has this been going for? It went for 4.5 minutes about before Jamie got to say anything.
I was close.
What did you think?
I liked it. I liked this side, I think, more than the first side. My favorite song so far is on this side. It was Counting Out Time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I got major Queen vibes. Like when you,
I can see that.
Yeah, when you mentioned rock opera, I was like, I hope there's some kind of like Queen type element because I love Queen. But yeah, and I really like I can't even put my finger on what the sounds were, but they were almost like childlike sounds.
Like the keyboard solo, that sounds insane.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't listening to this side. I wasn't as focused, not that I was focused on the lyrics for the first side, but I was definitely even less focused on the lyrics and more just taking in the melody and the instrumental and stuff. So I don't know if you have any insight on what the narrative for that that particular song. Yeah, because I'm wondering how it kind of correlates.
So that's what I actually said to Callum. I was like, this song is pretty funny when you actually, because essentially what the song is about is Rail finds a girl that he wants to date. He says that in the song. And then he reads this book, which essentially explains how to have sex or how to pleasure a woman. And so then but it's all like in like very scientific.
Find like the Kama Sutra? Like, what do you mean?
No. But it's like very like, you know, it's like a diagram, and like he talks about like figures 1 to 9 and how it's like, you know, okay, step 1, do this. So it's all very like mathematical and like scientific, counting out time, right? And
do this for 2 minutes. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, and then at the end of the song, he says, you know, I got unexpected distress from my mistress. And so basically, like, the woman is not pleased at all. And he's like, well, you know, I need to get my money back from this book because, you know,
didn't work. I'm
a red-blooded male, and the book said I could not fail. Get my money back from the bookstore right away. So that's why I thought that song was really funny.
Okay.
I don't know what is going on upstairs, but anyways.
Just say that part again, and we'll just cut this.
Okay. Which part?
That's why I thought the song was funny.
Yeah, that's why I thought the song was funny. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to me that like both of the songs that you've really liked so far are like, I wouldn't say my least favorite songs because I like both of them, but they're the most like, to me, like silly kind of songs, which is fine.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. Well, what was your favorite song on this side, Kyle?
Hairless Heart.
Oh yeah, you said Hairless Heart,
which I think.
I really like that one too.
Yeah, I am going to say, and it's definitely not going to be a popular thing, I think I don't like Peter Gabriel.
Like his voice?
I don't think I like his voice or his style.
Mm-hmm. It's very theatrical.
He has a way of like almost rambling, like he keeps talking when he shouldn't.
You know what? That's
maybe
funny.
That's why you like this.
I was waiting for that comment.
No, but you know, it is kind of funny though, because you know, Tony Banks, who's the keyboard player, and he writes a lot of Genesis music too. He's talked about that before, about how he would like, you know, there was one of Genesis' most famous songs called Supper's Ready, and there's like a keyboard like solo, and there's a part where, you know, he wrote this whole solo, performed it, and then they went into the studio, and Peter just started like singing over it, and he was like what the fuck?
Yeah, like shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like so there is a thing of like Peter definitely likes
the
to
sound
write
of
a lot of lyrics.
Yeah, it's like, and it's parts that like it's not matching the song. It's like they recorded the vocals, and then they were like, oh, they recorded the music, and that's great, and then he recorded the vocals and like didn't time it out correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he'll sing things on beat, and then it'll be like a moment where it should pause, and he just like keeps going, and then he just like immediately goes into the next. Like,
yeah,
it's one continuous sentence the whole song.
Right. Which is why they had these instrumentals so that Peter could have a break on stage.
But even then, if you think of the only Peter Gabriel song that I know outside of Genesis is Sledgehammer, because Meg likes that, and I don't love that song, but at the same time, it's that's matching the beat.
Right.
He stays on track with the beat. He doesn't meander with lyrics. And I did feel a few songs, especially Counting Out Time, I really like that song, and then he would get to parts in the verse where he's just talking. It's shut up.
Yeah. I found it interesting when we were listening and you said, what track was it? The Carpet Crawlers? Is that what you said was they're one of their most popular?
Yeah.
That was my least favorite so far.
Really?
I didn't like it. I found it very repetitive. Yeah. I actually wrote down under track 10, I wrote, why is this the most popular song? I want to know.
It starts good, and then it's kind of it was almost the same
repetitive.
Thing. Yeah.
You got to get in to get out part.
I did write down that I liked the way the harmony came together at the end of the song. But until then, it was a slow build into a lot of repetitiveness. And
yeah. I do really like that line, and I like the melody of that, the carpet crawlers heed their callers. You've got to get in to get out. And the verses in that song are really interesting to me too, because once again, on the surface, it's what the hell is he talking about? But I feel if you dig into it, it's you can interpret a lot of different meanings from it. But I think that there's meaning there. I don't think it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
Which I feel how it could come across. But I don't know. So.
Maybe my feelings towards it are attributed to not actually taking in the lyrics as well.
I mean, I could see how you think it's repetitive though, because it is kind of repetitive. But.
Yeah, there are certain things that it's just this is just factually they repeat the same thing over and over again. It's going to be repetitive.
What about Back in NYC, the first track?
I'm going to be honest, most of these songs are blended together for me, which is one of the things I don't love about musicals a lot, is because they have a similar theme the whole track, or I guess a concept album, is because the theme is so similar, all of it sounds the same in my mind. Mm-hmm. So now that we've listened to 11 songs, the ones that stand out are the ones that are different, and that's one without Peter Gabriel on it.
Yeah.
I can't remember it, I'm going to be honest.
It's the one with the weird time signatures and
Oh, it bugged me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really bugged me. It was offbeat or
It's just a weird time signature.
Yeah, but I've listened to songs in that time signature before, and it wasn't as jarring.
I think it's intentional though.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah. It felt that way. It didn't feel like an accident. They went in knowing that they were making something different, but even then I was listening to it and I felt weird.
As someone who doesn't play any instruments, can you explain what a time signature is?
So,
because I'm what? I'm so lost right now. So I feel I can assume, but
so a time signature is basically how many beats are in each measure.
Okay.
And so the most common time signature is 4/4. 95% of music is all in 4/4.
Okay.
If it's something outside of that, it usually sounds a little bit off. And it usually makes it more complicated to play.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
Because your internal rhythm goes in 4/4.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. If you think of a random song, it'll be in 4/4. And then anything outside of that, it comes off as
a little bit odd. Yeah.
Yeah. There's too much time between notes being played, or there's it's frantic and there's too little time between notes being played. Yeah, it's difficult to describe how time signatures feel, but once you start looking at different songs in different time sigs, you start to realize how they feel different.
Yeah.
Typically, you stay in 4/4 because 4/4 is what feels right.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, a lot of artists will change outside of that.
Especially prog rock. That's kind of a.
So we should probably jump into the third side.
Do I want to just talk about the story from this part? Because we did that for side one.
Do we?
I mean, it honestly, it's just this.
I think I would like to hear it.
Yeah,
and even if we have to edit some stuff out, whatever.
So, Back in NYC is Rail has an extended flashback of returning from a gang raid in New York City. A dream where his hairy heart is removed and shaved with a razor. That's the hairless heart. Now, I don't know exactly what the metaphor or allegory is about having a hairy heart.
Recently. Yeah.
But it's mentioned in Back in NYC, and there's a really weird like lyric where, because like Rail is like obviously described as being kind of violent, and like there's a lyric in that song that suggests he's like sexually violent as well. And so I don't know if because he says there's a line, I should look it up. It's like, no, it's no time for romantic escape when your fluffy heart is ready for rape.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Holy.
And they repeat that quite a few times. And so the idea of the fluffy heart or the hairy heart being associated with that and then shaving it off, does that mean he's like becoming a better person? Like he's, you know, because then the next song, Counting Out Time, is his first sexual encounter.
Yeah.
And that to me seems consensual. So
shitty but consensual.
Very unpleasurable especially for the female, but
his mistress.
So that's kind of how I interpret it, but that's just my.
That's probably how I would see it as well.
Rail's flashback ends, and he finds himself in a long red carpeted corridor of people crawling towards a wooden door. Rail runs past them and exits via spiral staircase. That's the carpet crawlers.
I don't like that visual.
Yeah.
Just imagining
so,
that.
yeah, he says, like, you know...
Human centipede.
There's a harvest...
That's not where my mind went, but sure, Callum.
There's a lyric that goes like... That's not where I was thinking either.
No, I don't know why.
But there's a lyric, and it goes, you know, there's harvest feast lit by candlelight. It's the bottom of a spiral staircase that spirals out of sight. And so then at the top of the spiral staircase, he enters a chamber with 32 doors, surrounded by people and unable to concentrate. And essentially, the 32 doors are all leading him in different directions. There's all kinds of people, you know, my mother to the right of me, my father to the left, and the wizard and the magician, you know, all these people trying to tell him, this is the way you should go, this is the way you should go. No. And he's like...
He's at a crossroads in his life and doesn't know which way to go with it.
Yeah. And it's represented by...
I
don't know why 32 doors, but yeah, so that's the story of this side. So Rail's going through quite a trip.
Yeah. I'm right there with him. Jesus Christ. All right. Part 3. We'll be back in a minute. Sorry, as soon as I clapped, I remember the first sound break we tried to do, where I clapped, and then you were just like...
Yeah.
Right into the mic.
I sniffed like I just did a line of coke. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so that was side 3 of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, or just The Lamb. That's kind of like the short form.
That's what the cool guys call it.
Yeah, what the cool kids call it.
All the kids on the street listening to...
Yeah, listening to almost 49-year-old album. Yeah, so it's the first side of the second record. It goes from Lily White Lilith to Silent Sorrow and Empty Boats. So, what did you guys think?
If you're a masochist, do yourself a favor, go listen to the song Waiting Room.
Or don't.
And leave in the comments what the fuck that was. What was that? It was just like glass breaking for 3 minutes.
So, okay. So this is going to be my...
Give your thoughts without going into the story behind
yes,
first.
Right.
We'll get to that after, because I am very curious.
Okay.
But...
So, to me, this is very... obviously it's very like experimental, avant-garde, whatever. Okay. But that's like... I think that it's an interesting choice for Genesis, because they typically don't do that kind of stuff.
Typically they make music.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go by your traditional the definition of music. I mean, they're using musical instruments, so...
Are they?
There was a lot of guitar and synth.
No, it definitely, like... It switches up, and, like, I actually have... The last note I have is turns into actual music with a big build-up. So, like...
The last minute of the song is quite good.
Yeah.
But the beginning, I don't even know, like... Would you know what instruments they're using to make those? Well,
there's a lot of
noises?
synths.
It's like
you know, like
chimes.
Right, like that kind of stuff,
and foghorns,
wind chimes. The guitar work I think is pretty cool. It reminds me a lot of something that King Crimson would do, which is like a contemporary of Genesis. They did a lot more like improv. How do you say
improvisational?
I'm trying to think of the. It's improvative. I don't know, whatever. Improvisational. I don't think that's the
They
correct
improvised
word,
a
but
lot.
yeah, they did a lot of improv. And you know, it usually would like have that a sort of similar vibe of like ominous, weird, uncomfortable kind of vibe. And so I think that's almost like Genesis trying their hand at that. And I think they do a pretty decent job of it.
Of what?
Of creating that vibe.
Okay. Sorry.
No, listen. I get why you guys don't like it. Like, I respect that, but to me, I think it. I think it does a good job of like setting a vibe. You know, I think it evoked emotions from both of you.
The emotion of turning the fucking album on.
You know,
in total, that was easily my least favorite side of this so far. Like. The first side, I didn't really get it, and I started to like, the more the time that passes, the more I'm going to appreciate that first side. The second side was probably the best. This side was just like not good. Like,
really?
I liked...
What did you think of the Lamia? Because
I was going to say, I actually did like that one.
Yeah.
Do you know what a Lamia is?
It's a mythological creature.
Yeah, it's like a demon woman that kills children.
Yes, it's a child-eating monster from Greek mythology.
Well, that's interesting that that's mentioned as well as Lilith, because Lilith is a demonic figure as well.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we want to get into the story, but Lily White Lilith is a blind woman who leads him out of the chamber. And he goes into the cave.
Okay.
He goes into this, or basically the waiting room. And that's the point.
If that is playing in the waiting room, holy fuck.
Yeah.
So I guess so I didn't really listen to the lyrics too much, but when I heard like knowing the song title, Lily White Lilith, white is associated with more purity and like innocence, whereas Lilith is like a demonic figure, obviously. So I was kind of, without listening to the lyrics, my interpretation just based on the song title was something to do with some kind of character who's almost like a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. Which it's interesting that you said that this woman led him into the waiting room, which I can only assume is a really terrible place based on the song. So I guess that kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And then he becomes trapped by falling rocks, which is a reference in the song anyway, which I think has a lot of really cool lyrics because it's like, and then the supernatural anesthesiast is basically like death.
That song is also quite good.
Or
actually.
or like the Grim Reaper.
It's the same thing as counting out time, where like it's good and then it just goes on for way too long.
It's not that long though. It's like 2 minutes.
I know.
It's good for like 30 seconds.
I don't know. It's like this whole band seems to not know when to end a song. Like I feel like a couple of different times they've gotten to points where it's like they do 2 or 3 good minutes of music and then they just like drone.
I think this is just Callum getting introduced to prog rock.
I also feel like
probably.
Maybe you don't like the song, and like once it goes on for longer than a minute, you're like, okay, can this end already? Because I fucking hate it.
But even then, like it's like I like the beginnings of them. Like I like the beginning of Counting Out Time, and then it just kept going. And like I liked the beginning. Like Lemia, I feel like was an appropriate amount of time.
Right.
And the anesthesiologist, like I really liked that song, and I was really getting into it. And then it was like, it should be over now.
I wanted to reference some specific lyrics from the song anyway, because I think it has a lot of really cool... basically, I think this is like Rael kind of coming to terms with his own mortality.
Is that the one after the waiting room?
It's the 4th track.
No, it's the 3rd track.
So yeah, after the waiting room.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wrote down that... the music sounds like coming to terms with a pivotal moment in your life.
Yeah, interesting.
Because so the verse 2, anyway, they say she comes on a pale horse, like death, like the Grim Reaper. But I'm sure I hear a train. Oh boy, I don't even feel no pain. I guess I must be driving myself insane. Damn it all. Does earth plug a hole in heaven, or heaven plug a hole in earth? How wonderful to be so profound when everything you are is dying underground. So I kind of like it because it's like, you know, you can do all this like philosophizing of like, you know, death. Like, what
this just seemed like a very
Jack
song.
But when you actually like die, it's just like you're like, how wonderful to be so profound when you're just like actually fucking dying. You know, like it doesn't actually matter when you actually just. So I really like that line.
I did really like the piano in any way. I felt like that was kind of a standout point. The rest of the instruments felt like they weren't communicating
in any way.
Yeah, like I don't have to. It's like when I play like video games and I'm playing like a team game and I'm playing against another team and they just like are all doing their own thing, they usually lose. And a lot of the time I'll be like, well, they're just not communicating at all. Like nobody's telling each other what they want to do and how they want to do it. Yeah, that's what that song kind of felt like. Where points where like the drum was doing like riffs when other instruments were already playing. It's like you don't need to be riffing right now. Like I can't hear you. Yeah, you're just adding noise. Like the piano stood out really nicely, and then it felt like the other instruments were almost crowding it. Right.
Well, there's a lot of like dichotomy between like very quiet moments and then it like blasts into this very
but
bombastic.
Even then, like let the quiet happen, let the bombastic happen. It felt like they were bleeding into each other too much, and we weren't getting the soothing quiet and then the cathartic loud. Right. It felt like somebody was playing too early.
But isn't that almost like mirroring the lyrics where it's like
it is,
right?
Yeah, like
because these things are both happening.
If we're talking about it again, like on the musical stage, this makes sense. If we're talking about it of do I like it? Right. Like it's not giving the instruments their time to shine. Again, like seeing this as a musical, or like even seeing this live, I would appreciate that more. But listening to it as a song, it's got some issues though for me.
Okay. Any other thoughts from... I wanted to bring up a couple lyrics from the Lamia, but before I do that...
You can do that first, and then we can get into the last track on that side of the record.
Yeah. I really like the vibe of Here Comes the Supernatural Anesthesiology.
It's very fun. I love the guitar work in that.
It had nice, clean instrumentation. It was just like almost relaxing, but still kind of upbeat. Like it was... That was a good song.
That's the last one we listened to?
That was the fourth song.
Oh, okay.
The Lamia, I love the piano. I love the synthesizer. I love the guitars near the end. But I really like the lyrics. So this is as Rael has, after I guess he's, I guess.
Why don't I just tell the story of this album and get to the Lamia part when you get to that part?
Yeah, so he escapes the cave. Rael ends up in a pool with 3 Lamia, beautiful snake-like creatures, and has sex with them. But they die after drinking some of his blood. So these are quoting some of the lyrics. He finds a long passageway lit by chandelier. Each step he takes, the perfumes change from familiar fragrance to flavors strange. A magnificent chamber meets his eye. So he goes into the pool. Rael stands astonished, doubting his sight, struck by beauty, gripped in fright. The Lamia say to him, Rael, welcome. We are the Lamia of the pool. We have been waiting for our waters to bring you cool. Putting fear beside him, he trusts in beauty blind. He slips into the nectar, leaving his shredded clothes behind. With their tongues, they taste, test, and judge all that is mine. They move in a series of caresses that glide up and down my spine. As they nibble the fruit of my flesh, I feel no pain, only a magic that a name would stain. With the first drop of my blood in their veins, their faces are convulsed in mortal pains. The fairest cries, we all have loved you, Rael. And the next line, he actually, like I said, name drops the next song, Silent Sorrow. And each empty snake-like body floats, silent sorrow in empty boats. A sickly sourness fills the room, the bitter harvest of a dying bloom. So I guess they kind of, it's almost like when bees like sting you and then they like die after they do it.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
That was a lot to unpack.
Can we edit that to just like you start and then it just cuts to me saying, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about?
I just love those lyrics.
Can I do that?
I love those lyrics because it almost feels like a poem to me. They're very like poetic.
Yeah, a little bit. I can hear that.
But I don't know exactly what that means. I think maybe it could be some kind of a metaphor for like, sometimes like pleasures of the flesh are not, they don't give you any sort of like deep satisfaction or long-term meaning. And in fact, they can lead to like, unhappiness, which is in the form of like the Lamia after drinking his blood and having sex with him, like die, right? So that's my own interpretation, but I don't know if that's what was intended, but maybe I'm thinking way too deep into this.
Wait, so he had sex with 3 snakes? I'm so confused.
They're
Did you
like
say they're snakes?
they're snake-like women.
They're like Medusa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like trying to like almost visualize
it,
this,
yeah.
and I'm like, in a pool? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
I like how that's the part that's just like, you can't have sex with 3 snakes in a pool. Like, you
Anywhere
do that
but the pool.
in the kitchen. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyways, it's a weird song.
anyway, we're gonna go listen to side 4.
And then the last track, which is the instrumental.
Oh yeah, I thought that it kind of sounded, not in a literal sense, but it almost reminded me of Christmas music. Not Christmas music like Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Actually,
Reindeer.
funny enough, I also kind of got that.
But almost like the magical, like, feeling you have around Christmas time.
Almost a feeling of wonder.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of calm. Because that's him leaving the pool.
It did put me to sleep.
That's him leaving the pool in a boat. I guess that's what it says. It's supposed to represent on Wikipedia. And so...
Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yeah. And so it's almost a sense of, like... calm, we'll get to side 4. So it's like a calm before the storm, and that song is like very necessary live because the next song, Peter Gabriel is in quite an elaborate costume, which I do want to show you guys a picture of before.
Yeah, we'll post that in a minute. We'll put that up on the YouTube. If people are watching on YouTube, we'll post a photo of whatever this looks like.
The Slipper Man.
The Slipper Man. Oh, I did see that was the next song.
Yeah.
If you're listening along, I'm sorry. But listen to
you can
last...
thank me later. You can thank me later.
Listen to the last side now. We'll be doing the same thing once we've taken a break.
All right. We just finished the album. That was side 4 of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. I just was saying to my 2 fellow podcast hosts that I kind of...
We're not even friends.
No.
Podcast hosts. These 2 people that I show off it with.
That happen to be in the same room.
In the context of the podcast. Come on. I was just saying how this might be like my favorite album of all time. And Callum was like, I'm sorry.
This might be the worst album I've ever listened to in its entirety.
Are you serious?
I think so.
Okay.
I can't think of any other album that I've listened to like all the way through that I was like, man, my life would have been better if I hadn't listened to that.
Oh.
Well, let's also take into account that, at least for me, if I start listening to an album and I get like a few songs in and I'm not vibing with it, I'm not wasting my time to listen to the rest of it. Whereas here, you kind of have to for the sake of the podcast.
You're being held at gunpoint.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
For the sake of content. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to get through other albums that I'm going to like less. Same thing. If I'm listening to an album or like a band and I don't like it, I'm not going to listen to
an hour and a half of it.
Especially because usually you get introduced to like one of the better songs. Like if I don't like the better song by this band, I'm not going to listen to like the whatever tracks in the middle of this album.
I'll be honest, I certainly could have picked an album by Genesis that's more accessible than this.
That probably would have been a good place to start and then like lead into this later on. Maybe.
I really just threw you guys to the wolves.
Yeah.
Like, this is the most like...
Yeah.
longest, weirdest...
I'm exhausted.
But I do think...
I am mentally and physically...
I do think this is their magnum opus, though. And like I said, I think it's in my top 3.
It's like in Crusader Kings where your character is writing a book and it's like, this is going to be what my whole character's life is built to. And then you get like a traumatic head injury before like halfway through writing it. That's this magnum opus.
Okay, well, let's talk about the songs and then we can talk about the album as a whole.
Let's talk about the fucking songs.
Colony of Slippermen.
What the hell is happening?
Okay, I didn't read the lyrics.
Do you want me to pull up the lyrics?
Maybe. First of all, part 1, you said it's in 3 parts. Yeah. Part 1, very, like, I can differentiate from the rest of the song.
It's like the instrumental part.
But then part 2 and part 3, I didn't even know when part 3 started. But maybe that's more apparent in the lyrics. Part 1, I felt was trippy and almost felt like coming out of, like, a drunken state. And it also made me think of, like, charming a snake. I don't know why, but...
I kind of get that, actually.
Like snake charming music.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the arrival is after he has banged the snake ladies.
The lamb, yeah.
Yep. He shows up and
goes
like,
on the boat.
He's basically at the part, you know, SpongeBob when they go to like rock bottom. There's all those weird monsters.
No.
And he like can't get on the bus. It's that, but in music.
Right. He's arriving to the colony of Slippermen.
Yeah, like horrifically cancerous monsters. Yes. And then they're like, "You look like us."
Yes, he
So he's like become like one
he was basically like, "Oh, we all banged the snake ladies."
He says
and now we're all here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, his skin's all covered in slimy lumps with lips that slide across each chin. His twisted limbs, like rubber stumps, are waved and welcome say, "Please join in."
Costume makes sense now.
Yes.
Yep. Which we will put on screen right now.
Yeah. So take a look at that.
Enjoy that for a few seconds. Let that stew in your mind and your nightmares.
Yeah, he says, "We like you have tasted love. Don't be alarmed at what you see. You yourself are just the same as what you see in me." And Rael says, "Me, like you, like that." And then they say, "You better watch it, son. Your sentence has only just begun. You better run and join your brother John."
His brother also banged the snake ladies and is also a monster.
Yeah. So
All right.
they got to see Dr. Diaper, reformed sniper. He'll whip off your windscreen wiper, which is, they're talking about his penis.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Yeah. "Understand, Rail, that's the end of your tale. Don't delay, Doc the Dick. I watch this countdown timer tick." And then
so the doctor cuts off his penis.
he places the number into a tube. It's a yellow plastic shooby-doo. It says, "Through your fingers, though your fingers may tickle, you'll be safe in our pickle. Suddenly, black cloud come down from the sky. It's a supersized blackbird that sure can fly." And then there's the instrumental break of in the Raven.
So he becomes a monster, and then he cuts off his penis, and then a bird takes it.
Yes. And then
this does really lean into the Greek mythology shit, where like reading it now, you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
What was the point of this story?
Both are castrated and keep their removed penises in containers around their necks. Rael's container is taken by a raven, and he chases after it, leaving John behind. The raven drops the container in a ravine and into a rushing underground river. So ravine is basically just...
Yeah, I definitely mentally checked out on the rest of that side after that.
Okay.
Like, I read the lyrics, and the rest of it was just, like, background noise, which maybe is why I thought it was so, like, repetitive and similar to each other, is I wasn't focusing on it, but after reading those lyrics, I was like, I think I can do this.
So, yeah, then after that, there's the ravine, and then the light dies down on Broadway. As Rael walks alongside it, he sees a window in the bank above his head, which reveals his home amidst the streets. Faced with the option of returning home, he sees John in a river below him, struggling to stay afloat, despite being deserted twice by John when he was in the cage, and then I forget the second time. But and then Rael dives in to save him, and the gateway to New York vanishes. So that's in the rapids.
Wait, is this all the same song? This is the next song.
This is riding the Scree.
That's after the instrumental, correct? Or is that the instrumental?
No, so it's Ravine.
I'm sorry.
No, it's totally Ravine.
Lost.
Ravine is the instrumental.
Okay.
And then the light dies down on Broadway is where he sees basically like an exit back home.
Wait, before we continue with the story, can we talk about those two songs?
Course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we not talk about
this? Back up a little bit. Okay, the ravine, I have two notes. It was very eerie, and it reminded me of, like, seance music or something like that.
Oh, like everyone, like there should be 4 people sitting in a circle, like by candlelight?
Trying to, like, contact the dead. Right. That's the vibe I got.
Well, what did you think of the Slipper Man? Now we've talked about the lyrics. Like the rest of the song.
I wish the rest of the song was as weird as the lyrics, because, like, the rest of the song was largely forgettable for the most part, I think.
I don't know. I'm having trouble keeping up with the storyline. So when
the stories made this so much worse than it needs to be.
Okay, here's the thing though. I feel like obviously we've been talking about the story as we go along. I am struggling to keep track of how the story started and how we got to this point. Mm-hmm. So I'm struggling with that song a little bit of I guess
castrating themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I'm sure it's like maybe repercussions for you said that some of the songs said that he was sexually violent and stuff like that. I'm sure that is symbolic to that in some way, but yeah, I don't have any other thoughts. I don't really know.
Yeah, I guess my interpretation would just be that it's some kind of
penance,
punishment, or at least like a reckoning with the fact that like
his past,
or just the fact that like, because to me like all of these events that happen to Rael are like allegories for something else. So like him sleeping with the Lamia is representative of.
Did he get an STD? Is that
He
what this
might have
is?
got an STD. Yeah.
Do you think he just slept with 3 hookers and they gave him some shit?
Yeah.
And he was gonna die. He had syphilis and his doctor cuts his dick off to save him.
That could be. Yeah. I don't know why they're wearing it around his neck. And
Maybe he can
it's wearing the scarlet letter on the A.
Maybe it's it's the allegory is he still has it, but he's medicate to function or something.
Right. Okay.
Who
That's
knows?
an interesting.
Did Phil Collins have raging syphilis? Is Phil Collins dead? No, it's not even Phil Collins. It's Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel. Yeah, he wrote the
dead?
story. No, he's still. Actually, he's coming to Toronto.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I want to go see him.
Find someone else to go see him with.
Yeah. So there's that song. Then we talked about the ravine, I guess, and then so we can go into Down the Rapid, the Light Dies Down on Broadway.
That song actually kind of stood out to me. The first half of it I quite enjoyed. And kind of the same as I feel like a lot of the other songs that I half enjoyed on this is I just feel like it went on for too long.
That's the only song that Peter Gabriel didn't write the lyrics to. Also,
the way I liked it.
That was the lyrics I think were written by Tony Banks and Michael Rutherford. I like in that song how they reference both the Lamia and the title track, the Lamb.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like it feels like it comes full circle.
Musically, they use the same melody in it, and it. Basically, it's he has to decide whether or not he leaves John and go back to New York or try and save him.
Mm-hmm. I got a vibe of it sounds like a song leading to redemption.
Yeah.
So I guess his redemption would be not leaving his brother behind.
Yeah, saving his brother and fucking himself over in the process.
I like the line, where is it here?
There are a lot of themes of penitence in this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not in this song?
What is the song after The Light Dies Down on Broadway?
It's Riding the Scree.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's I must decide between the freedom I had in the rat race or to stay forever in this forsaken place. Hey, John. And I like the line about I must decide between the freedom I had in the rat race, because it's almost like he's coming to terms with the
fact that he watched the movie Rat Race starring Rowan Atkinson.
That's a good movie.
It is it's a really good movie.
I still love that movie.
I love that movie now. Rat Race is awesome.
I know. Side tangent, not what I was referencing, but it is a really good movie.
That's referencing something that gave me joy for a minute.
I think it's him coming to terms with the dysfunction of life and society, but
family is still there for you.
Well, it's because he calls it a rat race.
Yeah.
But he says that there's freedom in that, because it's he's basically been through this hell, but it's at the end of the day he's coming to terms with the difficult parts of life and being okay with it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got from it.
I gotta get that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, anything else about that song you guys want to say? No? Okay. So then, Riding the Scree is essentially,
that's the one where it's instrumental, then a big portion of vocals, and then more instrumental, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's trying to ride the scree. The rocks are tumbling all around me. If I want John alive, I've got to ditch my fear, take a dive while I've still got my drive to survive. So basically, it's a song about facing his fear.
Yeah.
And he's still got that. After all of this, he still has that innate human drive to survive. And then there's that kind of funny part where he has that really deep voice. He's
I was is this a different person singing for a second? It was it's the keyboardist.
I think there was just a vocal effect, but he says, "Evil Knievel, you got nothing on me." And then in the really high pitched voice,
them's fighting words, Evil Knievel, who I think might have still been alive during this era. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah, probably, yeah. And then I don't know if you caught the part where he says, "Here I go." It's really
I did. That.
I thought that was kind of funny because it's he starts with
it's Mario,
the deep voice of swinging his dick around basically around his neck. No pun intended. and being like, I can do this. And then like when he actually has to do it, he has like this, he's clearly very scared with that voice.
Oh, he died in 2000. Leo Kiefer died in 2007.
That's crazy.
Was it? I thought Kiefer was dead for like 20 years before that.
I thought he would have died like doing one of his stunts.
I assumed he died in like the 80s.
Yeah. So anything else to say about that song? Writing the Scree?
I don't know. I feel like you summed it up pretty good.
So then we go into the second to last song in the Rapids.
I feel like I'm in a lecture that I've like skipped 2 weeks of class. And the prof's
And
like,
you're like, I don't know.
picking up where we left off with this, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, I didn't buy the textbook. I've not been keeping up with the quizzes.
That's funny.
That's funny. Anyway, back to talk about these songs.
Well, there's 2 songs left. So, In the Rapids actually has like a quite a big like twist in the story.
Does it now?
I don't know if you guys caught.
No, I didn't.
Probably not.
Oh,
But
boy.
Rail rescues John, drags his body to the bank of the river, and turns him over to look at his face, only to see his own face instead.
Was he John all along?
Well, I'll read you the lyric. It says, "Hang on, John. We're out of this at last. Something's changed. That's not your face. It's mine. It's mine." So, my interpretation of it is that Rail has like a split personality or something. Because if you notice, there's a lot of lyrics there's a lyric in Back in NYC that's like, "This is your mess that I'm stuck in. I really don't belong." And so there's like hints that like Rail has like a dual
like his
personality.
dark past versus his promising future or some shit.
Something like that. Or it could be a literal, like he's bipolar.
Yeah, he's got like a disorder.
Right.
Yeah, like dissociating certain
Yeah.
parts of himself,
Mhm.
like compartmentalizing in a way.
So John, the guy who fucked him over and kept deserting him and all this stuff, he realizes it's actually him. And so he's been doing that stuff to himself. He's been doing that stuff to himself the whole time, essentially. That's how I interpret it.
Maybe.
I did not get that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I just wasn't paying close enough attention to the lyrics, but that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's in the Rapids. And then finally the last song.
I loved the last song.
You love the last song?
I loved it. I just like got such like happy ending song. I don't know about the lyrics, but just
No, I honestly
happy
think it
ending
is.
song.
I think it is.
Gaining a full understanding of things previously questioned. And this is gonna sound so weird. It sounds like, and I always do this when we're doing this podcast. I relate it to like movies that I've seen,
That's fair.
but
I do
it
it to
sounds
games.
like music I would expect to hear at the end of Charlie's Angels, like all of them like on like a jet ski, like riding off into the sunset.
That's really specific.
I don't know.
It's
I've
just
never
like
thought of that, but that's interesting.
that's where my brain went, and I was like, maybe not the lyrics, but
The vibe of
the vibe of the
feeling
song.
of
I was
it.
like,
Yeah.
wow, this.
I got
like
the same
this.
thing with I think it was with the beginning of Slipperman or something.
Oh, really?
But I was like, this sounds like Pikmin.
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
why.
Oh yeah,
It's just
you were
like-
saying that.
There's something in my brain that was just I could see this like little dude in a spacesuit chucking vegetables at people.
Mhm.
It's a weird game.
That's interesting. This is I think it is probably like the most the song that I think is like left up most to interpretation. This is how Wikipedia describes it. It says his consciousness then drifts between both bodies, and he sees the surrounding scenery melting away into a haze. Both bodies dissolve, and Rail's spirit becomes one with everything around him. If you read the lyrics to it keeps saying it is blank, and then it keeps describing what is it. So basically, you're trying to find out what are they talking about? What is it? And to me, the way I interpret it is like it is the essence of like life. Callum's face.
Sorry.
Because they keep, it's like, when it's cold, it comes slow. It is warm, just watch it grow all around me. It is here, it is now. Just a little bit of it can bring you up or down. Like the supper, it is cooking in your hometown. It is chicken, it is eggs, it is in between your legs. It is walking on the moon, leaving your cocoon. Which I guess might be a reference to the song, Cuckoo Cocoon. Just maybe like your cocoon is like,
You've metamorphosized.
yeah.
You've become the worm.
I'm not gonna make the mistake I did with the Lamia and read the entire lyrics of the song.
I appreciate that.
But it basically it keeps saying, it is blank, whatever. So the way I interpret it is like, it is life. It's the essence of being. It says, if you think that it's pretentious, you've been taken for a ride. Look across the mirror, Sonny, before you decide. And it says, the outro, it says, it is real, it is rail. And I think that it's interesting that rail is like an anagram of real. And it's almost like at the end, like rail becomes real. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Yeah, I understand.
Like that's like the metamorphosis is like, instead of like rail, it's like he comes to a full person and like, realizes like who he is and, becomes one with everything around him, like the explanation said. So, and then the one line that I think is interesting, the last line I'll talk about is it ends with him saying, "It's only knock and know all, but I like it," which I think is a reference to the Rolling Stones song. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. But he says it's only knock and know all, and maybe that's like you knock and then like he knocked on this like place, and now he knows all. It's only knock and know all.
It was like the Legend
it's
of
just like a play on
Faust
words
or something. Like,
well, like he found this fantasy world, so he like knocked on the door, and now he knows all. Like he's come to like see some kind of deeper meaning.
He also has no penis.
He also has no penis. Yeah,
that's the main
I think that was a metaphor, Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
But he says, it's only knock and know all, and I like it. So that's how it ends.
So how'd you guys like that?
Your tone of voice when you asked that question.
I didn't know how to phrase it. What did you guys think of the album? Obviously, you liked it, Jack.
Well, I just said it might be my favorite album of all time.
That's hence the obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. Aside from the waiting room, I feel like I'm gonna have nightmares. But that song aside, and I'm sure when you listen to this full album and you read the lyrics and you know the context, I'm sure it has a place in the album. I'm not saying it doesn't.
You just didn't like it.
It's just not my cup of tea, I guess.
I don't hate this album. It's so frustrating how close it is to being good in so many different ways to me. And it just falls short in almost every single track. Mm-hmm. Like, does it have to tell this big vaulting story? Or could it have just been good music? Like, what do I get out of knowing that Rial, like, banged a bunch of snakes and then cut his penis off and Dr. Diaper was involved and a bird stole it? Like, what do I gain from this? Absolutely nothing. I might be worse off for knowing that.
I just want some kind of visual symbolism.
Yeah, there's got to be something.
Some kind of animation, Fantasia style.
And coming back around to that idea, if this is a musical, this would probably be a really interesting musical to watch.
Yeah.
It's just...
There's a video on YouTube that somebody's animated an entire...
That would probably... It probably would have been better to have...
along with the album.
Okay, that's what I feel like I'm missing right now. I feel like I'm struggling to follow along the storyline, and I'm more of a visual learner than I am just like listening to something and understanding it.
It's also music. Like, it's meant to be enjoyable and like to have a beat going and to enjoy instrumentation and stuff like that. So like having so much emphasis on visuals, I think without a visual aid to it, the story doesn't need to be there. With a visual aid, why would you ever listen to this without it? It just feels kind of trapped in a place of like they wanted to make a Broadway musical and just like didn't have the money or like weren't famous enough.
Yeah, but
I'm sure that's not what it was, but it's the feeling I get of like they just wanted to do that, and so they made this album. But they didn't make the album being like, you know what, let's make some good music. It's like, let's make some weird shit and like see who likes it and dress up on stage. Like
all of that said too,
tuba.
I'm sure their on-stage performance probably has some visual aspects that kind of
like
tie
the costumes
into the story,
and
the costumes, all of that. So,
and it makes those in-between tracks make sense.
Yeah,
and like the movements, people leaving the stage, and the instrumental being like that. And again, seeing it live would be great.
It's essentially just a one-man show because everybody's just playing their instruments. It's just Peter. But
at the same time, like the problems I have with some of the instrumentation would be way less if it was a live show or like an animation or an actual musical. just looking at it as music on its own, there are so many problems with that album that I can't get over. With animation with it, with a Broadway show, with a live performance of it, that will definitely turn, I would think. It's just comparing this to other albums. It's like, why would I ever listen to this when I can listen to better music that like isn't as long and like convoluted and confusing and like other American Idiot doesn't have the waiting room in it.
I'll totally agree. This album is long. It is convoluted, and it's kind of a mess. But like, I love like there's so many like little musical motifs and things that I just love in this album, and I remember them, and whenever they come up, like the song.
We were watching you vibe, like we were watching and listening to it, and Jack was just like vibing to it.
Me and
like,
Callum are so focused, and Jack's just like
Jack's
doing a little
feeling
dance.
Like riding the scree, like the keyboards in that song, and like Phil Collins just going insane on the drums. I just love it. But yeah, I don't know.
One thing, sorry.
No. I was just gonna say, me and Callum just disagree.
It's fine.
I am curious though, what if you can think back to the first time that you heard this album as a whole, like what were your first initial thoughts? Obviously, we're giving our first initial thoughts,
right.
And you've probably listened to this album plenty of times, considering you're saying it's your favorite album.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, coming into that, not knowing the context maybe, or knowing the context for the first time and not having the intricate details that you hear after listening to it over and over and over, what were your like first thoughts? Is it something that grows on you?
Yeah, I think, you know, I had listened to a lot of Genesis up until this, before I listened to this album. I kind of left this one like purposefully to like one of the last like albums that I listened to from Genesis, because I was intimidated by it, because it's like, it is really long. It's a double album. It's a concept album. It's a rock opera. So it's like, it
checks every box of like, this isn't like a casual thing to listen to.
No, exactly. Like it's something where you need to be committed listening to it. And you know, I would say it is, I don't know if I'd say it's challenging to listen to, but like it's
a little challenging to listen to.
Yeah. It's
at times
you got to put the work in. And so I definitely waited until I was more familiar with their music to like, okay, and also it had been hyped up in like the prog rock, you know, community, because this is like a seminal album of, you know, progressive rock. Kind of right before the genre started to like die significantly in popularity. And so, yeah, so I eventually when I first heard it, I don't know, I'm trying to think my initial thoughts. It's definitely, I would say, darker than a lot of Genesis's early music. I think a lot of their early stuff is very like almost pastoral. Still like musically complex, but certainly not like...
It wasn't your favorite album after the first time listening to it.
Yeah,
safe to say, right?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I
think I would enjoy it more listening to it again, but I think the difference doesn't make me want to listen. Like, yeah, I would enjoy it more. I'd appreciate it more on a second or third listen through, but I'd rather listen to so much other stuff all the way through. Like, if I was locked in a torture chamber and had to listen to that song every day, that album every day, eventually I'd probably really like it, because it is interesting and complex and there's a big long story to it. Yeah. But like as music, I just can't.
I think this has
listen to this again.
I think this has the best playing of any Genesis album. I think this is at their musical peak. Like every musician, like Tony Banks is going crazy on the keyboard. I think Phil Collins, you know, is just if you don't think Phil Collins is a great drummer, just listen to this album. Why are you laughing?
The idea that you can throw a call to action and be like, listen to this. Waiting room. Breaking glass. And Phil Collins like eating a sandwich while the fucking sun comes out and he's like, what the hell is happening right now? Tripping fucking balls during a thunderstorm.
I also do think it's fitting that this is the last album with Peter Gabriel, because it almost feels like...
If I was their manager, it would be too.
Because I just feel like, you know, it's almost like they couldn't go any further with, like, this is like the most Peter Gabriel Genesis album
it is
ever.
Pretty batshit. Like,
Yeah.
and with what you told us, like Peter Gabriel dressing up in a costume and stuff like that, and being almost like a method actor.
Yeah.
I don't think you go bigger than that.
Yeah, you can't. That's what I mean. And so
anything else with him after this would have been a step down. So it was probably best that was like this was the peak, and then they were like, let's change how we do things.
Yeah. And certainly like there's great Genesis stuff after this, but they never did something like this again. You know, this stands on its own. So.
Well, that was The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. I didn't hate this. I just wish I liked it more. I don't know. I was really excited coming in because I was like, I don't know much about Genesis. Like, this is a 70s band that I know people like, but like, I don't know anything about them.
I definitely could have picked something more.
Yeah,
easy,
maybe.
But
maybe I'll still come back to Genesis someday and just like leave all the Peter Gabriel shit to the side. Yeah. I just don't think I like Peter Gabriel.
Yeah. Like his voice.
Yeah, and shut the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
Like, stop talking.
He does, yeah. I feel that.
It's more than just you here. Like, let somebody else fucking have the spotlight for a moment.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, you said that, like, the music is mixed in a way that the vocals are super loud, and now I'm thinking that might have been intentional because there's a whole bunch of points where, like, other people are playing, and he's just like, and then I went down to the shop and picked up, like, a tuna sandwich, and I got a Hungry Man meal. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just the Peter Gabriel experience, I guess.
It is, yeah. It is indeed.
Yeah.
But any other closing thoughts?
No, I mean, I didn't mind it. I don't know that I'll listen to it again, but
I think I'm in the same boat. If you're about to say, should we listen to it again? I'm gonna
should we?
Push you out the fucking window.
Should we go like what each of our favorite songs are from the whole album? Or?
Oh, I don't know. So I would say I'm torn between the last song.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that.
It?
Yeah. And what was the other one that I said that I liked?
Counting Out Time?
Yes.
I think Hairless Heart was probably my favorite.
I
liked it a bit of Counting Out Time, and it just there were so many like weird instrumental things happening that I just couldn't get over.
I think for me, I really like the first track. I think it's a great opener to the album. I love In the Cage. Back in NYC is great because it's kind of like, it's definitely the most like aggressive song. You know, and I feel like Genesis doesn't really have anything else like that in their discography. I love the Carpet Crawlers because it's I know you guys thought it's repetitive, but
yeah,
I love the lyrics in that one.
I also just, once you explained the story behind that particular song in relation to the whole album as a story, it just creeped me out.
That's fair.
That might be one of the like reasons why to avoid big long stories behind music and stuff like that is because you can just make a good song and then ruin it with context. You just have an independently good song, you can't really do that very easily.
Yeah, that's true. Chamber of 32 Doors is great. My favorite song is probably The Waiting Room. No, I'm joking. The Lamia. It might be The Lamia, honestly.
We are definitely going to do as a peek behind the curtain, people come like, I guess this is only our 4th episode, but we're going to do themed months eventually. Of like, we're going to do like mood months and seasonal months and like era months, stuff like that. One of the months is eventually going to be like viewer requests. And I swear to God, if anybody is like, revisit The Lamb Goes Down on Broadway. No.
The Lamb Goes Down.
I don't know what, dude. It's been like...
That will be the end of the podcast.
We've been here for 4 hours doing this.
It's a long album.
It's a very long album. The next album. Right, we're gonna do that.
Yeah, let's do the next album.
We're gonna do. We're gonna.
You gotta take out my.
Well, I'm just gonna spin it, and if it lands on one of yours, it's gonna be super anticlimactic. Yeah,
that's fair.
Turn off secret mode.
It's gonna land back on.
It's not on Broadway.
So okay. Somehow it will appear.
Yeah. It's gonna be
my phone's gonna black out and it's gonna like blood drip down the walls in the form of the words "The Lamb Dies on Broadway." What was it? The Lamb Lies Down.
Yeah.
All right. Spinning the wheel. Boop a doop a doop. Don't have sound effects for it. Boop a doop a doop. Boop a doop boop a doop boop 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 a doop boop boop boop. Wait, what is this? It's The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails. Which we're not doing. Sorry. What is this song?
Damn it.
I copied and pasted.
Better luck next time. What song?
Oh, I was confused. I just copied and pasted, so one of the songs on the wheel is "Okay, let's add Don't Let the Kids Win." It didn't even clue in. That was not.
Funny.
It was spinning, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" So we're not doing the Nine Inch Nails because Jack just went. So we're gonna land on 4 Jacks, and then we're gonna pick.
Can we do that next time then? Since it picked it again.
We'll revisit that.
That's fine.
It was "Bloom" by Beach House.
Okay.
So I added this one because you guys both said you'd be interested in listening to the full album.
Oh, so that's the one with Myth on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. So it'll be a month before that one comes
You
out.
have that one on vinyl?
I do.
Okay, nice.
Well, we'll bring that next time. I'll leave it on there for now, and we'll replace it next time. We'll link later on.
Cool.
Thank you for listening. This is our first long form podcast. They probably won't be as long as this one because the tracks we would next album we're going to do isn't going to be as long. Maybe we'll spend more time talking about individual songs when we're not doing 24 songs in one group. These special monthly episodes are going to be a lot different from the usual stuff, a lot more relaxed, kind of conversational.
Yeah.
Give you something to listen to on the hour-long drive home. There's two people argue
Listen
about
to us talk about rail.
music that you can't listen to because it's an hour and a half long, and the album is longer than the podcast.
Yeah.
But
Okay, Bloom is exactly 1 hour and 0 minutes long.
that's fine.
So I think that's
Okay.
more
That's
attainable.
still, you know what? I'll say this, though. That's still a fairly long album.
That's only 15 minutes longer than the ones that I picked, and the ones I picked aren't long.
Right.
45 minutes, I think, is normal for rock and punk.
1 hour is closer to 45 minutes than an hour and 32 minutes is.
It is. But I'm just trying to make myself feel better about picking a
Don't-
half album.
Don't feel bad. I mean, it's just going to get easier from here to do these. Next time, I'm going to be man, we're done by 3 p.m. Easy.
Pet Sounds is 33 minutes.
Let's do Pet Sounds
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with one of Jamie's picks.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, we started with one of
We started with one of yours, and that is the Lost episode.
yeah.
And then we did Beach, Cure for the Enemy, Travis Scott. So realistically, we're starting with Jamie, ending with you.
Yes.
So
I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
I don't know what my next song is going to be.
You've got, we're recording this a bit earlier, but you've got a couple weeks. So.
I'll leave the viewers in anticipation.
Oh, yeah. Excellent.
All right.
All right. We'll catch you all next time.